Mangwanani Mwalelepo Vukenjani Kleklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories. Today we bring you developments from the Democratic Republic of Congo, where a new peace framework has been signed with M23 rebels, and this is in Doha. South Africa investigates the unplanned arrival of Palestinian travelers from Gaza. In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan probes post-election unrest. CARICOM leaders are set to visit the UK to discuss slavery reparations. Mike Situla reports from Zambia in our Zambia report. Economic insights and the South African Springboks round off today's coverage. Watch AGM on DSTV 285, GoTV 25, ntvafrica.my.na, as well as NTV Africa on YouTube. My name is Ashwin Bedi. This is Africa Good Morning. Top stories shortly. In a world where politicians promise the moon and deliver potholes, where democracy sometimes arrives in camouflage and ballots often look like formalities, one show dares to laugh with Africa, at Africa, and sometimes for Africa. This is Second Take, your weekly dose of political satire with an African soul and a global edge. From coups disguised as press briefings to ministers moonwalking past accountability, we serve the real news with sharper writing. Each week we bring you the TikTok of the week, because sometimes the revolution is vertical, and the heartwarming moment of the week to remind us that not everything is burning. We also sit down with the bold, the brilliant, and the brave, voices that question power, stir thought, and spark laughter. Because when the headlines are wild, the leaders are louder, and the truth is lost in translation, we all need a second take. Let's get into the top stories on Africa Good Morning. In a landmark event in Doha, Congolese envoy Sumbusita Mambu and M23 Secretary Benjamin Mbonimpa formalized a framework aimed at bringing peace to Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a region long marred by conflict. The signing, mediated by Qatar alongside the US and African Union, seeks to address decades of violence and instability that escalated after the M23 seized major eastern sites, including Goma and Bukavu earlier this year. The agreement outlines 8 protocols, with key areas still requiring further negotiation, according to US Africa envoy Masad Bolosa, who also noted that prisoner exchanges and ceasefire monitoring have been slower than anticipated. The framework encompasses humanitarian access, the return of displaced populations, and judicial protection. Kinshasa demands the withdrawal of Rwandan troops, while Kigali ties this to the disbandment of the Congo-based FDLR militia. This framework builds on prior Doha agreements, including a declaration of principles in July and a ceasefire monitoring deal last month. Despite earlier US-brokered talks held by President Trump, which were violated, M23 favors the Qatari process, aiming to tackle the root causes of conflict affecting thousands killed and hundreds of thousands displaced amid the region's rich mineral resources. In our next story, we're talking about South Africa probing the unplanned arrival of Palestinian passengers from Gaza. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed an investigation into the unexpected arrival of 153 Palestinians from Gaza at OR Tambo International Airport, where they were initially refused entry and remained on board for over 10 hours due to missing departure stamps in their passports. Most were eventually admitted following intervention by a local charity and government compassion. The circumstances surrounding their departure from Gaza and transit to South Africa via Nairobi remain unclear. Israeli military body Kogat said the passengers left Gaza after approval from a third country without specifying details, while the Palestinian embassy criticized an unregistered organization for exploiting the humanitarian crisis, deceiving families, collecting funds, and facilitating irregular travel. Of the 153, 23 later continued to other destinations, leaving 130 in South Africa. Ramaphosa emphasized that despite incomplete documentation, these individuals come from a war-torn context and must not be turned away. He instructed a thorough evaluation and public update on the matter, underlining government responsibility and humanitarian considerations while balancing legal and diplomatic obligations amid a situation reflecting broader regional and global complexities in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Tanzania has launched a probe into the election week unrest, which was blamed on the president widely. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has initiated an official investigation into the violent unrest following Tanzania's recent presidential election, which saw her re-elected with 98% of the vote, while the main opposition leaders were barred from contesting. At least 240 people faced treason charges during post-election demonstrations, prompting the president to request leniency for those arrested and emphasize understanding for participants who lacked full awareness of their actions. Her comments invoking forgiveness come after UN human rights officials called for transparent inquiries into reported killings and other violations. The protests, organized primarily by youth, reflect global Gen Z-style mobilizations against entrenched leadership. Analysts attribute the unrest to years of suppressed reforms, youth frustration, and political repression within the ruling party. President Samia also urged dialogue among political parties and reaffirmed plans for a new constitution-making process. The unrest has challenged Tanzania's long-standing image of stability, illustrating a volatile political environment where government actions, exclusion of opposition, and security measures intersect, while the administration seeks to manage accountability, national reconciliation, and the path toward democratic reforms amid heightened domestic and international scrutiny. Now, CARICOM is headed to the UK for talks on slavery reparations. A delegation from the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, Reparations Commission will visit the United Kingdom from today, the 17th, to the 20th, to discuss historical injustices related to slavery and colonialism and their lasting social, economic, and cultural impacts. The talks aim to promote public education and strategic partnerships while advancing a joint program to address reparations claims. CARICOM's agenda includes demands for formal apologies, educational initiatives, debt cancellation, and financial compensation for at least 12.5 million Africans forcibly transported and enslaved between the 15th and 19th centuries. Public awareness remains limited, with surveys showing that 85% of respondents were unaware of Britain's role in transporting over 3 million Africans to the Caribbean. The initiative follows international calls for recognition of enduring legacies such as systemic racism, although European opposition persists, with leaders arguing that contemporary institutions should not bear responsibility. CARICOM's visit builds on previous Commonwealth commitments to discuss the issue. The delegation seeks to ensure tangible acknowledgement of historical injustices, stimulate global conversation, and advance educational efforts to confront past exploitation while reinforcing regional advocacy and international diplomacy on reparatory justice in line with broader human rights initiatives. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we'll be joined by Mike Sichula as he delivers the Zambia report. But first, let's have a look at the weather. It's time for us to talk to Mr. Mike Sichula as he delivers the Zambia report. Mike Uribanji.
Miribuino Muribanji, Africa, good morning to our dear viewers.
Tiri bueno. Now, Mike, last week you reported on some individuals throwing stones at the president as he addressed some locals. I understand some arrests have followed this incident.
Police have moved, and according to the reports that they have made, at least 27 people have been arrested in connection with the violence incident at Chiwempala, Angola, on the Copper Belt province 2 weeks ago. So police have since recovered stolen items such as the presidential that was stolen, portraits, and other items that were stolen by the people from the presidential tent, the awaiting tent that they vandalized. And police are still continued to investigate because they want to understand the motive and to also identify the ringleaders of this incident, because this incident has unfolded. The ruling United for National Development, such that the some districts on the Copper Belt have held solidarity walks in honor of President Hakainde Hichilema, to indicate that despite the incident that happened at Chiwempara Market, President Hakainde Hichilema still commands a lot of support on the Copper Belt. There in the picture is the Minister of Home Affairs, who visited the market, which had recently been gutted by fire, and it is where President Hakainde Hichilema was addressing members before his address was cut short by violent incident.
All right, Mike. Last week, Africa's richest man, Dangote, took a Southern Africa trip. We understand he was in Zimbabwe, and just after he met with Hakainde Hichilema in Zambia. What was on the agenda?
So the meeting at uh, included of where Mr. Aliko Dangote revealed to President Hakainde Hichilema that his company wants to invest in Zambia for the processing of raw materials before these raw materials can be exported to Mr. Dangote. He feels if Africa continues to export raw materials, it's like they're exporting jobs to foreign countries. So the best way African countries to benefit from the raw materials they have, it is by way of ensuring that these materials are placed in Africa, then exported outside the country. Then he also called on President Hichilema to consider investing in coal in order to reduce the electricity deficit that has affected Zambia. He told the president that if the electricity supply is not improved in Zambia, it is likely to affect growth of the economy. And company is also willing to invest in the coal-powered energy, considering the amount of reserves of coal that Zambia has. And President Chilema also responded that the need for to push forward and take charge of its developmental agenda by encouraging Africans who are vested in business to within their countries, so that people can gain jobs, and also Africa can have an ability to do its own, such as manufacturing, also building their own city plans.
All right, Mike, we keep our news economic as the European Union has mobilized €2 billion, and this is for the development of the Lobito corridor.
Yeah, and this news last week, where European Union Commissioner Joseph Sekere said the corridor is an important project that is mutually beneficial to the southern and region. As you President Hakainde Hichilema was also present during that meeting, and the European Union Commissioner added that the EU the project as a vital project that will create jobs, open business opportunities, and link farmers to markets within the African region. In response, President Hakainde Hichilema urged the EU investments in Africa beyond the Robito corridor. So the Robito has attracted of not EU, the United States of America have also invested, and the African Development Bank is also, and local think tanks have since called on African investors to also take part in this Robito corridor before. It is expected that the Robito corridor is going to open the African region to the international community with the exportation of minerals through the corridor once it is fully actualized.
All right, Mike, we head into your last story, which as usual is the sport. The Copper Queens are preparing for their Malawi tournament.
Yes, so the tournament is a four nations tournament. It involves the host Malawi, South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. It will take place in Malawi from the 29th December to 22nd of December. So according to Football Association of Zambia, this tournament is important for the Copper Queens because they'll be going for the 2026 AFCON. And also may be aware, Malawi has also qualified for them. Then South Africa, they are former champions, and it is a good one for the Copper Queens to prepare as they seek their first title, the AFCON title. So, aside from this tournament, Zambia and the Chiporoporo boys on Saturday, Friday played against South Africa in an international friendly. Zambia lost to South Africa 3-1. Then on Tuesday, tomorrow, the Chiporoporo boys will play against Angola in Rwanda. This is also a preparation for the upcoming 2025 Africa Cups that will be held in Morocco. Zambia is using this tournament with a new coach, Moses Sichone, after Avram Grant was Football Association of Zambia. Then in other sports news, the Zambia under 17 boys were eliminated for the ongoing FIFA under 17 World Cup after they lost 3-1. It is also important to Zambian under 17 boys were participating for their first time. They did manage to qualify from the group stage without losing a single match. The group comprised Indonesia, Brazil, and us. But the out has not disappointed coach Dennis Makinka, who said the performance of the boys is something that needs to be considering that it was their first time at the 2019 World Cup.
Thank you very much, Mike, for delivering the Zambia report.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning to our dear viewers.
Africa, good morning indeed. Shortly, we'll be talking about the first ever G20 summit on African soil in economic news after the break.
Mornings just got better, Namibia. From the latest headlines to the hottest trends, we're bringing you the conversations that matter.
That's right. Bright minds, bold opinions, and a touch of morning magic. This is your daily dose of energy.
So grab a cup and join in on the conversation every weekday morning at 8 o'clock with Smell the Coffee, hosted by Diana Master and Aina Riza Quayo.
In economic news, the first ever G20 summit on African soil has placed Johannesburg at the center of global diplomacy, offering the continent a platform to influence economic and political policy. Under the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability, South Africa emphasizes African priorities, including debt relief, climate finance, and fair trade reforms, highlighting the continent's unique challenges and the lives affected by financial and environmental inequities. President Cyril Ramaphosa stressed the need for tangible outcomes that reflect Africa's interests. The summit also underscores complex geopolitical dynamics, with the U.S. boycott contrasting China's vocal support for African leadership. Hosting challenges, including infrastructure and resource constraints, have drawn attention to the city's preparedness for such a high-profile event. The gathering presents an opportunity to shift Africa from being a passive recipient of global decisions to an active architect of international agendas. Observers will closely monitor whether commitments on inclusive growth, debt management, and climate action translate into practical measures, marking a potential turning point in the continent's global positioning, demonstrating its capacity to lead and influence while reinforcing Johannesburg's credentials as a capable international host city. Ghana is set to remove VAT on mineral exploration, and this is to boost mining investment. Ghana is set to abolish the 15% value-added tax on mineral exploration and reconnaissance activities, a policy designed to attract investment and revive the nation's mining sector. Announced during the 2026 budget presentation by Finance Minister Kaseo Ato-Foson, the move represents the first major change to tax regulations introduced 25 years ago. The VAT previously applied to high-risk, capital-intensive early-stage exploration costs, which stakeholders argued discouraged foreign and greenfield investment. The reform aims to formalize exploration, regulate artisanal mining, and mitigate environmental impacts, including deforestation and waterway pollution. The policy is expected to reinforce Ghana's status as Africa's leading gold producer and improve the competitiveness of its mining industry. Small-scale and artisanal miners have already contributed significant output, surpassing large-scale operations in recent months. Let's quickly have a look at our economic indicators before we say goodbye with the sport. We end the broadcast with the Springboks. South Africa's rugby team overcame an early setback to claim a 32-14 victory against Italy in Turin during the Quilter Nations Series, maintaining momentum following their win over France. Lock Franco Mostert was sent off in the 12th minute for shoulder-to-head contact on Italy's fly half Paolo Gabisi, leaving the Springboks to adjust quickly. Coach Rassi Rasmus rotated the starting lineup and brought on 4 replacements in the first half, while Marco van Staden's converted try helped South Africa lead 10-3 at halftime. Italy reduced the gap with penalties, but South Africa extended their advantage through Morne van den Berg's try and late scores by Grant Williams and Ethan Hooker. Despite Italy's efforts, including a sin bin for Lorenzo Canona and a try from Ange Capuozzo, the Springboks' superior execution ensured victory. Grant Williams' try, created by Kenan Moody's assist, was a highlight of the match. Well done, Springboks. Certainly looking forward to see them in the Rugby World Cup along with Zimbabwe representing Africa. That's been Africa Good Morning on DSTV 2 at 5, GoTV 25, ntvafrica.my.na and NTV Africa on YouTube. Remember, that's Africa with a K. We return tomorrow as we get news stories from Zimbabwe and, of course, the top headlines from across the continent. Sweda Jaganaka.